One-to-one conversations with the UK graffiti writers you need to know. Writers before the fame, where it's all about style, getting up, and authenticity. Molotov Art and Paint Supplies proudly sponsor the Killa Kela podcast Graffiti Sweet Week special. 7 writers spread across 3 generations of UK graffiti. Headphones on, speakers up, and get ready for the conversation.
Come on, ma, please.
Syringes, water fight hinges. We love food for just to hit plenty. Oh look, oh no, watch them on them brain out. 30 to follow.
Killa Kela Fortified featuring Patoine. Available on all good music platforms now.
Instagram UK Frontline.
Beatbox created.
Killa Kela.
And we're here to talk about world music and street culture.
Killa Kela podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Killa Kela podcast. Serves you fucking right. Live and direct, central London, or as central as we need to be. You know what it is. All things music and street culture. And ballooning around my orbit, I've come across another hero of mine. And somebody that you need to know about. If you're anything to do with the Graff scene or part of the street culture history, particularly for London, then you'll know this guy. His name's Amin, PFB. How are you?
What up?
What up, son? What up, son?
My glasses are steaming up, but yeah. How are we doing? Yeah, cool.
It's my presence, isn't it? It's the steamy.
Yeah.
It's fucking hot in here, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's winter. You know, we're trying to keep ourselves cozy. You've not been doing too well, like you've been ill a bit, haven't you? You've had a bit.
A bit under the weather. Yeah.
Bit under the weather. You're not local from around here, are you? You're from other parts, but you.
From where we are now?
Yeah.
I kind of.
Around this area?
I'm West London.
West London.
Predominantly West London. As a writer.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've lived all over. You know.
Yeah.
All over every part.
Yeah. I remember as a kid, you know, living vicariously through, you know, magazines, and seeing you up, and the association with different writers at the time, and often, like. And these guys who check the podcast regularly know this, is like, I kind of like have like an area of my life where I was introduced so heavily to Graff that you all just kind of get put into the same time bracket. When to get a little deeper in how I have with the podcast, I'm slowly understanding the distance and the generations and the you know, Goldie didn't come at the same time as, you know, X, Y, and Z. He was a little later, you know, and things like that. And when I think about you, I do think West London, and I do think, but I also have this kind of stigma in my head of like knowing where you were in the history of things. Do you know what I mean? Whereabouts do you fit yourself?
Generation-wise, quite early, but there's obviously quite a lot of people before us in London that we got a lot of inspiration from. I mean, I started writing as a kid, you know, in school, probably around 13, 14, which was around late 84, 85, which is these days, you know, is quite early if you look at it.
Yeah, it is really early.
If you say to certain people these days, oh, when did you start writing? Oh, I started writing in 96 or, you know, it's kind of like, okay. But, you know, I think my generation, we were all kind of like about 84, 85 that we fully got into it. Yeah. And that means actually going out and writing, you know, not kind of in sketchbooks or whatever. We're actually
you went straight out
physically going out and doing graffiti on walls or trains and stuff. I think the earliest I ever did a train was probably 85.
85?
Yeah.
So how old would you have been? You would have been
I started secondary school in 83, so I would have been like 14.
Know what I mean? That's crazy.
But if you look at kids these days, I mean, 14's kind of old.
Yeah, true. They generally get younger, don't they?
Around 84, I think, no, earlier, 83, 84, like kind of hip-hop hit Britain in quite a heavy way when it came to sort of things like Rocksteady. I mean, things that influenced me from very early on was Rocksteady Crew, seeing their footage on British television. Malcolm McLaren, Buffalo Gals, which featured like Dondi.
That's right.
Doing the back Graff in it.
Yeah.
Rocksteady featured in it. People like Shaka Khan, Prince.
But was this actually within the timeline of when you, as you was growing up, or did you go back and discover them?
No, this was around the
happening.
timeline of when we were, these were actually out on top of the pops sort of thing.
That's mad. Yeah.
Shaka Khan, I Feel For You. Early Prince, like When Doves Cry, that sort of sound, that kind of electronic, that beat sound to stuff.
But you're also a two-tone fan as well, aren't you?
Yeah. Before that, I was very much. My brother got me into like ska in a big way, like people like Specials, The Selector, Madness. So from about 9 or 10, I was into that sort of vibe.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
which
wicked.
has a completely different sound, but out of that came, I guess, if you look at it, an early form of graffiti, i.e. as in, Skins, punk, NF, Sam Was Here or whatever, early types of graff that I would see and someone like Drax would agree with when we were kids.
Big up
Well,
Drax.
not so much
Big up
kids,
Drax.
big up Drax. Was, this sort of like paintbrush graffiti on railway bridges, Skins,
totally.
Anarchy,
That was the only graffiti there was that time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess when Graff came over, on the hip hop boat, it was like, oh, okay.
Boom.
Now this changes everything.
Yeah.
And you were a part of that early moment.
I think a lot of us were completely blown away, with the whole sound of it, the culture. It was like a youth culture with not just an art form, the music, the dancing, the beatboxing, everything combined. It was like, for a youngster, it was like, it just kind of blew you away and made you want to get involved. Originally, I started off doing like popping and breaking with friends.
For real,
dancing, break dancing, popping, listening to electro. And then after a short while, I thought, I'm not that great at popping. So I think my bag is to paint. It was something that, if you dance on the floor, it's like an instant and it's gone.
Yeah.
But when you painted and you did a wall or you painted graff, it was a bit more permanent and it stayed there.
That's
you understand?
sick.
It had more longevity.
I've
you
never
understand?
thought of it like that, but it's so true. What's the staying power, isn't it? It's like everyone talks about, were you there when you saw so play? Or whoever. Were you there when that guy did that move? Were you there when that rapper did this? But that's just communication. It's not, you can't go and, you can't
Well,
touch
it's
it and see it.
amazing, but it's like you have a visual memory of it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It happens of the moment.
Yeah.
But a lot of it, like a performance or a little skit on the dance floor, is like there and then. It's improv off the cuff, but it's there and it goes. Whereas graff, for me and a lot of friends, it was like you did it and it stayed around.
Yeah. I'm struck by the fact that I think with technology, it's like it becomes so the norm to see things again and again and again. On your feed and whatnot, you always see, you see a graffiti piece, like you see a breakdance. It all kind of comes to the forefront, doesn't it? But back then, it was a whole different thing, wasn't it? It was like, was that kind of your?
A lot of it, we didn't even have cameras. I mean, we did a lot of stuff. We didn't even photograph it. I mean, it was just like done and dusted. Now, I think it's, a lot of it is done purely for
the photo
to show
Yeah.
and to advertise, the internet.
How far does it go, though? Because I was thinking about this only the other day. At what point does it, the anonymity, the illegal side of graffiti, trains are being hit a lot more. And I'm like, at what point does that, where's the tipping point where it backfires? Where you use that exposure to your credit, maybe not for your fame, but to your credit. You want it documented, there's a little ego in that. But then what happens when it goes too far?
Well, I think it's got more so now where people do things purely for documentation and to sort of advertise it to other people and say, hey, look, this is me, this is what I do. I think early doors when we were all starting out, not just London, I think Paris, Amsterdam, even New York, kids didn't even take photographs of their stuff. It was like, for the moment, it ran, you saw it, that was it. It was gone, you know, it got cleaned or whatever. I think there was, I don't know, not
Big up K1, by the way. Big up K1. He was a mutual friend.
Yes.
Boy,
big up. I think there was a lot more purity to it, if that makes sense. A lot more innocence.
Yeah.
It was done. You know, you didn't go, right, I'm doing this. I'm gonna get 25 colours. I'm gonna spend 5 hours doing this wall, and then I'm gonna post it on every possible thing I can do. I mean, we were lucky if we had like a crappy little Boots camera to
disposable one.
I mean, in hindsight, I'm gutted that we missed a lot of stuff that we did, you know. But
but then at the same time that would have brought heat at the same time, wouldn't it? I mean, I'm pretty sure there's
we were
somewhere, you know?
there are there's documentations of stuff, but it's like people are more paranoid now, I think, than they ever were, you know, because of the way society has gone. You know, you can get into a whole lot of shit and things are, you know, tracked and observed by higher forces, let's say, way more so than, you know, years ago, the most that you had was, like you say, a shoebox of photographs or outlines. The worst thing when we were kids that happened was you went to Snappy Snaps with a roll of film with photos of trains on it, and then Snappy Snaps would call the police because of what was, you know, the content on that roll of film. So people would go back to Snappy Snaps, and then there'd be an officer going, hello, excuse me, what's all this about?
Has there been common cases?
That used to happen. Yeah, but that's like the internet and that now it's like a completely different ball game. It's like, you know, there's people that I think we all kind of think, oh, fuck it, you know, you put your stuff out there and just think, you know, this is me, whatever. There's things that can come back to you, and then there's things that can't. But there's a lot of foolish people that have been caught out over the years through stuff that they've posted or, you know, even just chat on the internet that can be looked into. And it's just like, it's foolishness. I think people are, you know, they've gone a bit too far into that. You know, it's all about, you did this, you said this, this happened, look at this, look at this photo, wow, this is running now, so-and-so did it here. And it was very much a closed thing that we did that not that many people knew about, you know?
It's mad, isn't it, the way that technology's really... You just don't know.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's you know, it's beautiful. It's amazing. It's thrown everything out there. The connections of people that can now connect through it is amazing. But there's also a downside to it as well. I think we all know that, you know, with this whole sort of Facebook thing now, and this sort of information that can be held and used against people, you know, this sort of freedom that is, you know, that we have is also can be reversed into complete non-freedom, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's an argument. It's very similar to the music industry as a whole, you know, and marketing even more so, where your competitors are your friends because the competition is online, especially with marketing.
And you can view it and see what they're up to and see what's going down. And therefore maybe counteract it and maybe come up with something a little bit. That's what I'm saying. There's a beauty and a benefit to it.
That's right, yeah.
But
it's all also, a level playing field now.
Yeah. There's also, no, I'm not knocking it completely.
No, not at all. I get it.
But I'm just saying how things change. The question, going back to the question of, you know, way back in the day, the way we used to paint was not for a little sign of glory to everyone and going, hey, everyone, look at me. It was just like, it was for a very small unit of people around you to see.
Peer group.
Peers. And we all tried to outdo or impress each other, you know. Crews back in the day, you know, you would have maybe 4 or 5 different crews that would all paint at the same time and all try and outdo each other. That was it. That was the main game. It wasn't to go, hey, look, hey world, look at what we're doing.
As a spectator of this, I used to jump on the circles and the districts and the overgrounds. See all these different. So I guess from the outside looking in, to have conversations like this, you never know how deep that goes down that rabbit hole, because I was just forever there, just riding those trains, checking out what was new, what was there, as an audience, you know what I mean?
And I find a lot more new things getting done, early years in London than there is now. I mean, there is still stuff and, bombing getting done, but the standard of it is, I don't really see like styles being passed down.
Yeah.
The styles are kind of lost a bit. There's like a missing link between the older styles and the older foundation of lettering.
I get you.
And, pioneers of people that set styles and standards has kind of been missed. And there's like a missing link between that older, I think everyone in whatever you do, be it graff, be it music, be it beatboxing, be it whatever, I think you need to pay a minimal bit of respect to the foundations of it.
Yeah, I feel that.
In order to understand
where you can go.
Where it all came from. I play old school rap in work. I play like Melly Mel and everyone's like, oh yeah. I'm like, yeah, but you listen to Pap Grime, Stubber Man, Sugar Man, yeah. It's like, dude,
this was the best.
This is where, without this, none of this would have been possible. You know, everything gets emulated. It depends whether you emulate or you bastardize. Yeah, you understand that?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Right? So a lot of people have bastardized, culture, be it like, art, be it music. A lot of people are musicians these days. They take like an old school 80s electro sound.
Yeah.
They're all trying to remake these sounds that have already been done. Yeah. They've run out of originality, so they just sort of go, okay, I'm going to rip a little. I'm going to rip a little riff off this old tune, remake it. And I've had kids come up to me and go, "Oh, I've played them the original," and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is so and so. This is." I'm like, "No. This is 1974 original break of what you listen to nowadays."
What is that?
That is the foundation of hip hop. Is to rip and cut and remake and remix stuff. Yeah, that's the foundation, but I think it's gone way too far.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. You're not saying that what is out now is rubbish, and you're not saying that reinventing something isn't a problem.
Not all of it.
But what you're saying is, if you had half an ounce of interest to apply yourself in learning some of the forefathers' creative foundations, then you could reapply that without treading on any feet. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing more frustrating. I believe in a new generation, and I get that.
So do I.
Yeah,
but there's too much repetition.
Yeah.
And it's the same in Graff as well. There's a repetition where loads of writers nowadays are like kind of doing this kind of early New York 70s bubble arrows, and they're all kind of going to that sort of 1974, 75 Graff style. Yeah. But it's like, yeah, okay. It looks all right, but it's like, it's kind of boring. We've done that. We've been there. Yeah. My style of Graff is very much New York influenced, but it's also got a little bit of a kind of London style to it.
Has, yeah, dude, it has.
Where that's what I loved about Graff when it hit Europe was we all had that New York essence in our lettering, but we also kind of changed it where you had like London had its own style, Paris had its own style, Amsterdam had its own style, Shoe and Delta, people like that.
Oh, Delta
Paris,
smashed it.
Paris with like Ash, Ski, BBC Crew, all that. Yeah. They had their foundations from New York, but they also made it their own.
That's sick, yeah. It's so true.
Then there was Chrome Angels, if we want to name a few crews that are like pioneers. In London, like people like State of Art, Scam. There's people that took it, but emulated it and made it their own.
Yeah, they did.
That's. I think if you just rip something straight, if you rip something straight completely and just copy it, which is what a lot of people are doing, it kind of defeats the object.
Yeah, it's plagiarised. It's plagiarised. Do you think some of that is to do with the observation of it all? Like, there's a lot more heat, there's a lot more cameras, there's a less amount of time to get something up, get something going. And equally, I would imagine the standard, even though the cans have progressed and the tools are there, it must be quite hard with a short amount of time to get any sort of like solid.
Yeah, but they've been given the tools, you know. It's like these days, the paint that we have these days is completely, you know. I get what you're saying. Yeah, you're right. These days, in order to do stuff like illegal train graffiti, it's like it's a different ball game to, you know, way back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, you used to have a couple of hours, you know. Nowadays, kids tell me about, you know, 10 minutes,
Tops of
5 minutes, back jumps, you know. People, like, literally it pulls in, you've got like 3 or 4 minutes. It's literally, it's a fat cap, an outline and a bit of bubble cloud behind it, and then it pulls out. So, yeah, I get what you're saying. But just, I don't know what my exact point was, but it's just, I just find a laziness in people's styles, foundation of styles to lettering these days. I mean, Europe, I'd say Europe's different. It's like if you look at a lot of Barcelona trains, Italy, I mean, it depends. It's like they're on a different buzz, but I just find, particularly London, it's kind of got to a stage where there's nothing much that kind of jumps out at me anymore, you know?
It's interesting. Let's go back. Right, so your beginnings. What was your early crews before PFB? What rank? How did you get up the ranks to PFB?
Basically, the first crews that I ever really started out with was we had a crew called the Immorals, which no one will ever really have known of or whatever. The Immorals was basically me and a few heads from like West London, young, you know, kind of gullible. That was my first like only crew that I was in, that I started with Lone, and there was a guy called Cancer. There was a guy called Fuck One. And we used to put up IMLZ. That was the Immorals. Okay, around the same time of that, I got taken under the wing of a crew called Vinyl Junkies. Okay, which were based like way out west. There was like members like Kev One, Anime, Ren, Sky, and they were all like way out sort of west, kind of. What would you call it? Like, not Harrow, but like in the sticks, West London, but out in the sticks. But
Zone 7, we'll call it.
Yeah, like Hillingdon, Hayes, Pinner, like out the north, like towards the Big Met. There also Nice One was in it. Nice One, Ren, Sky, Anime, Henry.
Croxley and places like that.
Well, not that far out, but but they were a crew like older than me that took me under their wing and kind of schooled me quite a lot.
Nice.
And I think I was only about 14 or 15 at that time.
Did you? So you were influenced by your surrounding crew members and your peers as well.
Yeah.
They showed you the basic template to create your own style.
To piecing, to piecing letter styles,
awesome.
to fills. You know, they used to bring me down to like Hayes or Hillingdon on a Sunday afternoon, do a Vinyl Junkies piece, and do the letters, and then go here's a can, start to fill in.